Sergeant Paul Tapao of the Guam Police Department joins us in the KUAM News Zoom room. Sarge, good morning.
Hey, half a day. Buenas.
Half a day.
And Viva Mes tomorrow.
Viva.
Well, it's good to have you on.
It is.
Looking good.
Hey, it's always an honor to be invited with on your guys' show. I really do enjoy the dialogue, the hard and really straightforward, tough questions. I think it's great. It helps build us with the better ties with the community. So thank you for all that, and thank you for everything that you guys have done for the Guam Police Department and the greater community, and allowing us to share our information, and of course, holding that relationship with the community members. So thank you guys.
Oh, thank you for coming on.
Yeah. I don't know if you know, but we had the governor on yesterday. Mm-hmm.
She was great. I gotta admit, she was, she was on point. She was smooth. She was flowing and everything. And I gotta commend, because as a fellow Sinanian, you gotta give it up to us Sin City peoples.
Sinanian.
Well,
yeah,
if you just found out you were getting $661 million, I think you would be in a very good mood.
It's good for the island. I think,
yes.
Prosperous times are ahead of us. Well, not so much prosperous times, but, a great opportunity to recover. And, I think it's the sacrifices that were made, and of course the challenges that were bestowed during the onset of the pandemic and where we are now. I think moving forward collectively as a community, and, understanding where our foresight way of thinking is going to come from this community, I think we can all pull through this together, and it's going to take everybody's effort. So, it's a good, thank you for everybody's effort in bringing the, our community spread, bringing the COVID positives down and everything. And at one point in time, it was scary.
Yeah.
But, if you have an opportunity to get vaccinated, ask yourself that question: what would you rather have, a jab in the arm or deal and endure COVID? So, I think we're seeing a lot of great things happening nationwide, worldwide. Some of the studies are coming out. So, the opportunities are here. Guam has, what we're seeing on Guam versus the stateside, the U.S. mainland, is we have an opportunity to get our herd immunity going and moving in the direction that we need it to go.
Mm-hmm. We did. You heard from, I'm not sure if you were on, but we talked to Public Health, Janella and Annette, it being 1 year come Monday since COVID actually hit Guam, and we asked them to reflect on the past year. We'd like to ask you now to reflect on the past year.
Wow, it was really challenging. Looking back, I personally, my family, my immediate, I'm talking my mom and my wife and my kids, we were one of the very few to be quarantined. Uncertainties, unknowns. Patient, I think patient 3 was, my mom was exposed for 2 days, 2 full days. And, the lack of information thereof, because COVID was new. Yeah. We had presentations by public health, but overall, my personal feeling, it was scary. It was really talking to your kids, talking to minor kids about the next step and what needed to be done in the event. Whenever you have to talk to a, somebody who's not prepared for the in the event conversation, it's a grim reality that, we had to prepare for that. But speaking on behalf of the department, the Guam Police Department, I want to say, when the numbers, we had one of the highest rates of COVID positive, working diligently with our management, our chief, and assuring that we were able to mitigate that. And look where we are now, understanding COVID, how to mitigate it, the proper PPEs. We are now the only agency that is able and is, to test our arrestees and our personnel for COVID-19, thanks to public health and of course the efforts of Chief Stephen Ignacio and the acting police commander, Major Manny Chung. So looking at where we were and where we are now, I think we've gone leaps and bounds with addressing and dealing with COVID-19 in our agency. And, our guys, who have tested positive have, I want to report, have recovered, are back on service or in service. So it's really, the moments where we report our positivity rates are slightly climbing. It's really, as a police officer, as a brother in blue, that's always our main concern is, how do you maintain and protect that thin blue line is when your brothers in arms are greatly affected. But, the attitude, the morale, and everybody pulling together, being able to adapt to the many changes, things changed in instance, and, the direction of the chief to the acting police commander and down to the troop level was really a flawless stream, and streamlining information was really important. And there were some challenges. I would be the first to admit, from a PIO's perspective, in receiving and of course disseminating information, but these challenges were needed so that we can better the service, not just for our agency or the government and the entire community. We needed to see this so that we can better ourselves as we move forward. But it was interesting. It was scary. We've learned from our mistakes, and we were able to pull through. And we had some bumps and bruises along the way, but that's associated with the line of work that we frontliners, we knew that we were going to be exposed to it. But nonetheless, our men and women courageously, I want to commend them for all their efforts, and I want to thank the family members, the support group. That's important in understanding what it's like to be a spouse of a frontliner. The wives, the husbands, the kids, that the uncertainty, it's like, it's there. So, again, thank you to the family support mechanism. I think it's essential. It's very, very essential for first responders. So, we're here now, 1 year. We have, I think we're starting to see a better picture moving forward. And, I'm very optimistic now in how our island and our community, our greater community, is going to be able to deal with COVID and addressing COVID-19 moving forward.
Right. Can you give us an update on the fatal crash in Dededo?
Sure. So we had, that, Adriana, she did a great story, and she asked that hard question about, is this one of the most horrific crashes that you've seen? I mean, reflecting back, by far, I think that's well up there with some of the crashes that I've, investigated and everything. But for an update right now, what we are doing is our officers, our traffic investigators, they were at the site yesterday, I believe, for the duration of the morning hours, getting some more evidence, doing their mapping, their field mapping. We are going to be doing more interviews with the immediate family members. Hopefully, we can identify the fatal, who was listed as the male operator, so that we can, move forward with the case. We're waiting for the toxicology report so that we can determine if alcohol or any other impairment were factors of the crash. And we do want to note that, I failed to report that at the time of the crash, it was reported that the roads were wet, during the time of the crash. So understanding that also needs to be factored in with the crash investigation. That's going to be incorporated, and of course, compilating the speed calculation and putting everything together with the events leading up to the crash. But for now, what we're waiting for is the positively identifying the fatality for this crash. We were able to obtain information of the passenger, but again, due to HIPAA regulations, and we're going to refrain because I believe the individual is still being cared for by physicians and of course the medical staff at the Guam Regional Medical City.
So can you tell us what condition? Critical, stable, in ICU?
The last I reported was in critical but stable. So, that's a good thing. And there was no information other than any changes of the status, because there's a 24 to 48 hour time frame where things can move for the greater, and it can slowly crash or greatly crash in the events of things happening internally that the physicians may have overlooked. So I think we've passed that 48-hour gateway. I want to say that because they listed him critical stable, that he's moved to stable. But again, we're going to wait and get more confirmation from our traffic investigators as to the condition of the passenger who was able to, receive treatment at Guam Regional Medical City.
Are you able to give us any ages of the driver or the passenger?
So we're waiting. I've
Still
been
there.
waiting for the traffic investigators. Like I said, they were out and about yesterday at the crash site. So there was some concerns with the identity of the driver. So again, we want to be able to report the accurate information that we can. So we're waiting for additional family members to confirm or next of kin to confirm the identity of the operator of the vehicle. But as we get that, I'll be able to provide that to the greater media.
What about the Autoped in Barragata, Manila? Was anyone ever arrested?
No, that's still ongoing. We were faced with the challenge of identifying the victim in that auto pedestrian crash by Route 10 and the road. I think it's Ledging Drive or Ledging Road. We were able to get some sort of confirmation from a family member, but the family member was traveling from Hawaii to Guam. So the individual was in quarantine. That's the last information that I got from our traffic investigators, that we are just awaiting the family member of the victim from the Route 10 crash, the fatal crash, to be released from quarantine. So once we get that and we sit down with the next of kin, get more information, we'll provide it again to the greater media. Again, this is our third fatality for the year. March, when you look at the calendar year, we are in the third month of the year, our third fatality. So we need to monitor and track, what's happening with our fatalities on the roadway. But it's our Autoped. I believe this was our second Autoped. The other one that was reported was recovering or is recovering and was listed in stable condition. I believe that was 2 weeks ago up at the Route 1 by 76. And we had the other fatality right by Revenue and Taxation in Route 16. So these cases are still under investigation by our traffic investigators at the Guam Highway Patrol Division.
What about the Jerry's Kitchen crash?
Yeah, what about the Jerry's Kitchen crash, Sarge?
That's, Chief Stephen Ignacio has requested or instructed the traffic investigators from Highway Patrol to do a follow-up investigation. Again, this is really moving forward with, the concerns from the community and, maintaining the public trust with the community. And, we want to be able to be as transparent as possible when it comes to cases, especially when we have to protect the integrity of each case. But, as we've been reporting, the case was issued, the operator was issued a citation for imprudent driving based on, what the videos that were circulating and stuff, right? It pretty much is in line with the synopsis that was written by the author of the preliminary officer. So again, the concern was an off-duty officer was present at the time of the crash or was listed as the occupant of the vehicle that was involved in the crash. So, to maintain the public trust of the community and of course the concerns, Chief Stephen Ignacio has issued has asked or tasked the investigators from our traffic Highway Patrol Division to conduct the follow-up. So that's still ongoing as information is provided from the findings that they get. We've requested, the Guam Police has requested surveillance footage from the respective establishments that are in that area, and of course the respective landlord of the building, so that we can better expound more on the concerns. And of course, should any findings develop, we'll provide that information to the media and of course the greater community. But rest assured, we're moving with a follow-up investigation to the.
So, but going back to what was said about this crash, the driver was not drinking. not under the influence of anything.
No, it wasn't listed that a standardized field sobriety test was administered. The only thing that was noted was the issuance of the citation of imprudent driving. So the synopsis and everything is pretty much it's consistent with the video that is circulating and that was released on the social media platforms.
So I'm sorry, did you say no drinking, no DUI, no DWI, no anything?
No standardized field sobriety test was administered. So it was listed. So
Wait, no test was administered?
During the time of the investigation. So when you know, it really is, you know, reasonable suspicion to believe that you may have impairment. So, you know, I mean, I'm speaking on me as a traffic investigator. If there was no, just reading the report in itself, if no standardized field sobriety test was administered, then it's indication that there is no reasonable suspicion to believe that the operator may be impaired. So, you know, people, again, you know, it's the optics in itself, right? Yeah. So there's opinions and stuff, right? Yeah. But, you know, being there and seeing and doing the investigation, you know, if the investigating officer or the preliminary officer felt that there was no need for a standardized field sobriety test, then, you know, I mean, you know, Sabrina, you've attended our DUI training. You see the, you know, what goes into it. So there's a greater science to it. Yeah. You know, and now we're moving into the advanced roadside impaired, you know, investigation. So these are tools in which our patrol officers are equipped with, not just to detect drunk driving. We are also able and capable of detecting impaired driving other than alcohol, such as, you know, illicit drugs. So as indicated, it was not listed that a standardized field sobriety test was performed relative to this investigation.
I wonder if the officer had seen the surveillance footage that everyone has seen, would the determination have been different? Because when you watch that surveillance footage, it's like, holy.
That's a big Jeep. I mean, I don't own a Jeep, but, you know, when you're able to, you know, speaking with modified vehicles, you know, I drive standard cars because back in the day, I've had a modified 4x4, and
they're not really designed to be going that fast, Sarge.
I'm sorry?
They're not really designed to be going that fast when you lift your truck or Jeep or whatever. It's more for looks, you know what I mean?
That's true.
Yeah.
You know, you're right in that. Some Jeeps, some modified vehicles have performance engines and stuff. So, you know, I mean, we can sit here and talk about how do you modify a vehicle and stuff. And
they're cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you think about it, 1:30 in the morning.
Yep.
You see
first night of bars being open.
Yeah, and a crash like that, I guess, if the police officer didn't feel like, you guys aren't drinking, you're not smoking.
You know,
but then again, also the optics of everything. Right. And, you know, if we take into consideration similar crashes like this, right? So you had a daytime crash that happened in the complex area where the car drove into
Pizza Hut.
Yeah. You know, and it really is, you know, I mean, inattentive, like I've stated all, you know, as a traffic investigator, three major factors in a crash is inattentive driving, impaired driving, and of course speed. So these are issues in which we look into. I mean, we've seen runaway vehicles where people have mistakenly disengaged the transmission or the gearing, and you're assuming you're backing in reverse, and then you go forward, and, you know, things do happen. So, you know, these are, again, you know, crashes in which we take into consideration. Right. But, you know, rest assured, we want to ensure the community that a follow-up investigation is being done, and it was tasked and ordered by Chief Stephen Ignacio. So once we get the findings and the conclusion of this follow-up investigation, we'll be able to provide more to the greater community and, of course, the media.
I think the wild card is the officer. So to me, this is Guam. To me, when you talk about the optics, it's that officer, off-duty officer. If you have an off-duty officer at the scene of an accident, when another officer shows up, I mean, you can't deny there's that brotherhood, that sisterhood where, I mean, if I'm a cop, I see another cop, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, guys, just go, or whatever, you know? And that's, I think, where it starts to become an issue. And
here's where we test the integrity, the aspect, right? Sergeant Paul Tapao gets into the crash. I'm the passenger. My wife is the operator, right? Of course, there's optics to believe and assume that things will happen. I want to stress, and I'm saying this as a former traffic investigator, the track record of our traffic investigators. If you haven't seen what we've done, we've arrested officers before. We found findings in which we've issued citations to officers for imprudent driving relative to official crashes. Off-duty officers who were involved in a crash involving their POVs have, when it was issued, handled by our traffic investigators, we have facts. We base ourselves on facts and evidence and stuff. So, the credibility of each and every traffic investigator assigned to the Highway Patrol Division, it may sound biased because I used to be a former traffic investigator, but it's hard to deny and it's hard to discredit the facts that is presented. So the science that is put in to every investigation, unless you have another reconstruction is sitting opposite of you to dispute your findings, that is the only way that you can discredit it. And I'm going to speak. I'm going to put myself out there because of the fact that our traffic investigators are, these guys. Again, our track record has shown that we've made arrests on our fellow officers. We've issued citations for reckless driving based on the mannerism in which they were operating. Our fellow officers were operating official vehicles at the time of the crash. So to say that our credibility and stuff, this is where, our traffic investigators come in.
Right. Okay, so Paul, let me ask you this. If you were the responding officer on patrol, you got the call, there's this crash that happened, 1:30 in the morning, you show up and you see this building, this restaurant, it's demolished, and you see the Jeep, and you see whoever the passengers, however many, would you have made them undergo a DUI field sobriety test?
Honest answers only.
Or would you, or they say, oh, not drunk. Okay, so no need.
Mannerism. So, we got to build reasonable suspicion, right? So
there's a building.
Yeah.
That's
Sarge, I get where you're Sarge
And
just has
again-
to defend it. He's going to defend
Yeah.
the department, and if he says what he would have done.
1:30 in the morning?
Yeah, no, I would totally. I'm not a police officer, but totally 1:30 in the morning, first night of bars being open, high speed,
So-
full on through a restaurant window. I'm gonna drug test them. I'm gonna be like, pee in this cup. You do that. Breathe here. Yeah, of course, Bree.
No, I'm asking Paul based on his experience.
Yeah.
What
So
would you have
hypothetically
done?
speaking, on my behalf, right? As an investigator, if I was the sole officer there, everything and anything is evidence, right? So we build our reasonable suspicion. We're building evidence, right? The mere conversation that we have, I'm also observing the mannerism of the operator. So I'm getting information. I'm ascertaining information. Your date of birth, where do you stay? Where did you come from? And so forth, right? And of course, this is where we use our observational skills. As they were retrieving their documents, they bypassed their, we're paying attention to this. As the individual or the operator of the vehicle was standing, I noticed the individual swing. So I'm building my case. If this is not present, I may not have reason to believe that this individual is impaired. I'm using my senses, because of the fact that we do have to wear masks. Your body, if you consume enough alcohol, even will emit out through your sweat glands. So you're able to pick up on this. Slurred speech, where the mask muffles it and everything, but you'll be able to determine that. Bloodshot, watery eyes. And we also have to consider too the crash in itself. We have to consider anxiety, hypertension, because for some people this may be their first crash that they were involved in. Something in that magnitude. It's like, oh my God, it's like I'm going to get in trouble, and so forth. So we have to take this into consideration. So there's a lot of things, and I may sound like I'm defending, and I know the critics are out there, right? But this is what an investigator would do to determine the facts that this person may be impaired. If that was not visible, if that was not present at the time, and again, I'm only speaking hypothetically on my behalf. Now, if I detect something with slurred speech, unable to maintain balance, is fumbling to the documents, these are telltale signs. These are what we call our cues and our clues. I will pick up on that, and then I'll move forward into, I may have reasonable suspicion. Now, do I have probable cause? The probable cause aspect will be, have you been, drinking or anything that may have caused you to crash and stuff like this, right? And I'm listening to facts that are real, and I'm listening to things that are made up where they're not staying to the question. So these are things that an investigator that I'm doing. If I see it, then I'll ask to administer the test.
Right.
If it's not present, I'll just move on with the investigation.
GFD
Because there
called
are
to the
things to
scene?
consider.
Guam Fire
sorry?
called to the scene? Guam
I
Fire.
don't know. I apologize. I don't have the copy of the report with me. So
All right.
Well, I'm sorry that you gotta, be in that position where
Only one police officer responded?
usually something
I-
like that,
I-
you see like the whole precinct will show up just to be like, whoa, damn, dude, how'd this happen?
yeah,
Right?
I know it's really it's from people for the community to see from our perspective and how we conduct investigation. And I'm leaning on Breve there because she was a part of our our A-Right training and being able to detect this. The science that we put into this, it's great. There's an 88-90% chance that once we administer the horizontal gaze and stagnance, and there's signs to show that there's the 6 indicators, we know that this person is impaired. But we need to build up to that. It's the same thing like doing a traffic stop. The mannerism and how they're operating their vehicle, weaving and swaying, we may think that this person is drunk, but when we start to investigate, I'm tired, I just got off work, I've been working 16, 17 hours. You don't detect the alcohol, you don't see the dilating of the eyes, you just see, let's try and pacify this. So we need to incorporate these things. We can't just assume that because you crashed that you're impaired, because people do crash. And this is why, we fall into the basic crash investigation. It's really determining the 3 major factors in the crash: is inattentive driving, speed, or impaired driving. So, putting the methods into your investigation will lead into it. But, this is a good conversation to have with coffee and maybe
Or
as the
beer.
pandemic
It sounds like
eases up,
more of a beer conversation.
I'm proposing that we go back into crime time so that we can have a full segment to discuss this. So,
All
it's a
right.
great opportunity. Once the pandemic eases up and stuff, I'm putting that to your
Okay.
your manager out there, if she's listening. It's try to restart it up because, I think being able to provide the greater information when we did it with prime time, there was a greater understanding about the mythology and how police operate. So,
Yeah.
and we don't piss in a cup to see if that's
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, if I go on the scene, it's 1:30 in the morning on the first night the bar's open, and I see that, I'm just gonna I'm just saying, I would well, in this case, I would act,
But
But I'm not
I
a
still
cop,
have this
so.
conversation at the house. This is our dinner conversation and stuff. But it is, and again, we'll let the facts speak for itself. Once we get the findings from our traffic investigators, Stephen, we continue to maintain that trust, the transparency, and of course the integrity of every investigation. So, moving forward, this is the commitment from Chief Steven Ignacio to the community. He's been very open. He's been on the show many times. And to see this from an agency head, especially coming from the Guam Police Department, I think it's significant to speak that our agency leader wants to remain continues to remain transparent, and everybody follows suit. In understanding that our role as public servants is that we are held to a higher standard, and we've ventured with a partnership with the Office of the Attorney General of Guam in reference to the allegations, and we're working collaboratively with them with the Mark Mayo trial, and of course the mayor, the Zonia Mayor trial, where allegations of police involvement. The chief has committed with the Office of the Attorney General, even Camacho, in moving forward with to see, just to really harp down and you can see the change because, Sabrina, you asked me the question, how does this feel? How does this make me feel about knowing that there's maybe some officers, I personally, it's not having it.
Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot, Paul. We can
Absolutely,
talk
guys.
offline about crime time.
Yeah, let's go
Yeah.
talk off the record about this.
All right.
Let's have a cup of coffee. I think 6 feet distancing. Did you get vaccinated?
Yeah.
The CDC had recommended that if you vaccinated, we can actually sit down and remove the mask. So
We're trying to
I
figure
ain't
out.
removing my mask.
We're trying to figure out where media fits in essential, and that judging from that eye roll we got yesterday, not really sure that we're near the top. So. Thank you,
there's an
Sarge.
opportunity. You might want to reach out to Captain Mark Scott, to find out the availability, and of course, moving forward, Johnson and Johnson's here. It's a game changer.
Oh no, I don't want no baby fetus in me.
All right, guys. You take care.
Thank you,
Stay
Sarge.
safe.
Thank you.
Leave a
Okay.
message tomorrow.
Yeah,
Viva.
that's it.
Viva.
Viva, Mr. Moore. There.